We are asked to solve using the inverse property, and we are working on an example using the Richter scale. For this particular problem, we're using an equation for the Richter scale given here by m, the magnitude, and in this equation our other variable is E, which is the amount of energy released in joules. And so we are working with that 2004 quake that happened in the Indian Ocean, and that was measured with a magnitude of 9.0 on the Richter scale. If we remember that, that was an extremely devastating quake because of the massive tsunami that it caused and the huge number of deaths. So what we are asked in this problem is how much energy was released by this particular earthquake. So when we look to solve that, the energy in the formula is the E, and the piece that we know is the m, the magnitude. So I'll start by filling in 9 as the magnitude equals 2/3 times the log of the fraction E over 10 to the 4.4 power. First thing I want to do in solving is get this 2/3 to the other side of my equation. So I'm going to divide by 2/3 on both sides, and I'm dividing because this was multiplication. It would also be okay to multiply by the inverse, which would be 3/2, and that would work as well. These guys cancel. Doing this on my calculator, make sure you put parentheses around that. So 9 divided by 2/3 comes out to be 13.5. And that's equal to the log of E over 10 to the 4.4. Now, I'm supposed to use the inverse property, and if I look back at the inverse property, it tells me that the inverse of the common log is a base of 10. So I'm going to use a base of 10, making this 13.5 an exponent, use a base of 10, making this log of E over 10 to 4.4 an exponent. The inverse property says that these guys literally cancel, and I'm left with just this E over 10 to the 4.4. So that's why I would use the inverse property, because it simplifies things so much. On this side of my equation, I have 10 with an exponent of 13.5. To finish solving, I want to multiply on both sides by 10 to the 4.4. Over here as well, times 10 to the 4.4 power. These guys cancel, and so I'm left with the amount of energy is equal to, and I'll go out to my calculator, 10 to the 4.4 times 10 to the 13.5, and it gives me an answer in scientific notation because it is such a huge amount of energy. So I get 7.94 times 10 to the 17th power. 17th power of joules of energy. On my calculator, this shows up as 7.94, all kinds of other decimals, and then it has this little e and 17, and that is indicating the scientific notation, and that's how we get the times 10 to the 17th power. So the inverse property is this property that tells us that using the base of 10 will allow us to cancel or undo the logarithm.